and welcome to another PSP. Today we'll be previewing, god damn it, I did it again. We'll be previewing the season for our number 6 ranked team. It is the team that is run by my wonderful co-host Ace. He's unfortunately not here to join us today, but that's true. We'll be talking about the Arizona Asphalt. So let's dive in and take a look at what this team did last year and what they might do this coming year. So last year, it was a brutal end to the season for Ace. He finished the season in 7th place, just missed out on the playoffs, and it actually, if my memory is serving me correct, I went back through the notes and it looked like this was the case. It looks like he lost out on head-to-head points rather than record or anything like that. So a tough loss, a tough way to miss the playoffs, but the good news for him is that the team almost made the playoffs last year, so that means they are certainly in a good position to try and make that happen again. Going over the key offseason acquisitions, we'll start off with kind of an interesting move that happened during the first-year player draft. Andres Jimenez was actually taken with Ace's first-round pick. This was, in my opinion, a pretty interesting sort of zag when many zigged. I think a lot of people outside of the two who took, or three, pardon me, I should say, the three who took the overseas Japanese players, a lot of people sort of went for younger MLB draft picks. Ace went a bit of a different route and got a sort of utility player that'll likely slot in throughout his infield this year in Jimenez. He also, of course, brought in the GOAT himself. Thank God for Jeffrey Springs. He is coming in to join this pitching staff, along with Fernando Cruz, the reliever out in New York. And finally, you can tell when this is recorded because he did bring in some motherfucker named Randy. Randy Arozarena will be slotting into the lineup soon. Let's talk about the outs as well. Start off with O'Neal Cruz. This is a kind of an interesting transaction looking back now. O'Neal Cruz was traded for Adrian Hauser, who at this point has actually been dropped. So O'Neal Cruz was, in a way, kind of dropped. I believe he is, I want to say he's over on Oki's team, over on the Rabid Coyotes, although I can't be sure. I'll see if I can pull it up in a moment to confirm. So the Cruz party is broken up now, but Nolan Arenado also headed out the door along with Reynaldo Lopez and, of course, in exchange for Randy, Nick Pivetta. So some interesting ins and outs. I think overall a pretty quiet offseason, but you bring in some, rotation assurance in a guy like Springs, someone who seems to be moving up the pecking order in that Yankees bullpen in Fernando Cruz. And then obviously we know what Randy can do. And, obviously he and I think the Mariners will hopefully look to sort of build on what they had last year. And the outs, I don't think anything is devastating. Pivetta obviously being the most significant loss there. It was an interesting sell high opportunity for Ace here. Obviously Pivetta had an unbelievable season last year. Just, blew past all his, career, records and all that stuff. I'm not quite finding the right word there. You're shouting it to me. I know what it is. But yeah, Pivetta obviously had a career year last year. And being the first year in a new place, some people were thinking, maybe the Padres kind of solved the Pivetta riddle. Some other people are thinking, hey, maybe, Pivetta will be taking a little bit of a step back towards those career norms. So it'll be really interesting to kind of track along with Ace this season. Obviously, with him being on the podcast, that's something it'll be kind of interesting to keep an eye on to see what Pivetta's season, kind of ends up looking like, and to keep that same eye on Randy. Let's talk about that lineup that, of course, does feature him. We'll lead things off with Agustin Ramirez, who ranks at number 89 on the top 1,000. He'll be playing catcher. At first base, we have Freddie Freeman, who, of course, for Freddie, and the big asterisk with that for Freddie, did have a bit of a down year last year, but I also know he dealt with some injury trouble, so he's getting up there in age a bit, 36 years old, but the man can hit. We all know how well he can hit, and he, is sure to, I think, frequent on that best bats list for Ace. Luis Garcia Jr. is looking to bounce back again at second base, and then at third base, we've kind of a combo of Miguel Vargas and Ernie Clement, who will both be, I think, playing a decent amount of time there for Ace. At shortstop, you have the linchpin of this lineup, Elly De La Cruz, ranked at number 6 on the top 1,000. Still just 24 years old, and, we know the tools that he has. Again, a little bit of a step back from his 2024 last year, but he's 24. He has all the physical talent and has shown all of the talent to be a top player in this league and to kind of justify being that first round pick that Ace used on him in our league startup draft. Willie Adames will be filling out the infield in that flex spot. Moving to the outfield, we do have Randy Arozarena sort of leading off things in left field. Again, ranked at number 82 on the top 1,000. Andy Pages quietly, I think, hit 26 home runs last year. I heard that the other day. I did not realize that. I mean, I knew he had a great season, but I didn't realize it was like really pretty fantastic. So he'll be there probably spending some time in center field. And an interesting character in this lineup and outfield is Cam Smith. I'll talk about him a little bit more at the end of the lineup. Rounding things out, though, is Ian Happ. And to me, one of the most exciting and interesting pieces of this team, never mind just the lineup, is Michael Garcia, ranking at number 64 on the top 1,000. He is in the util spot, but he has second base, third base, and shortstop eligibility. So he's sure to, kind of slot in a bunch of those different spots, kind of as players need it. Some other guys on the bench, as I mentioned, Jimenez will likely be getting some time there. And Keibert Ruiz, we'll see if he, is able to kind of put things together. If he gets some time in Washington, he could spell Agustin Ramirez, if there's an injury or anything. So, overall, I think a really good lineup. I think there is star power in your guys like Randy, Garcia, and Ellie. I think you've got some veteran consistency in, Freddie. And Ian Happ, the running joke is that he puts up the exact same season every year in like a good way. Like, he puts up 3.5 to 4 WAR every year. Cam Smith is a fascinating piece on this team for me. He came over last season along with Freddie Peralta and I want to say Hurston Waldrep in exchange for Zach Wheeler, which obviously that is a huge player to trade. In Wheeler, he headed over to what we now know as the Washington State Winners, and help them with that title that they won last year. But Cam Smith is a young guy. I believe he was taken in the 2024 MLB draft and already made his way up to the majors, of course, acquired by the Astros in the Kyle Tucker trade. Big guy. Definitely, I think, profiles nicely out in the outfield. And I want to say he started off really, really well last year and then kind of faded a little bit around midseason. So it'll be interesting to see what he looks like. As I mentioned, he's really young, so just 23. But, this is a player that the Astros were comfortable having as the headliner in the Kyle Tucker trade. So just to give you sort of an insight as to what that organization thinks of him, he's clearly you wouldn't call him a prospect anymore, but a young player that they have a lot of faith in. So I think too, if he pops off and really puts up the kind of numbers I think a lot of people sort of project him to, I think we could see, him be a really major contributor to this lineup. And then Michael Garcia is just, he is such a good player, man. He's so good. He put up 612 last year, 3.8 points per game. 800 OPS, has 3 positions that he can play at. And I think that he was one of those names I was practically writing in ink into Ace's best bats when I was doing the recaps. Like, he was just there every time, super consistent. And we haven't mentioned it much, but the walls are being moved in at Kauffman Stadium. And I think some people are talking about it as like, oh my God, the walls are coming way in. It's going to turn into, Sutter Health Park. Like, I don't think it's quite that. But I think it's going to change how the ballpark plays quite a bit. So I'm really keeping an eye out for Royals. And I think especially a guy without like light tower power, like Michael Garcia. I think we, could potentially see him moving from a guy who hit 16 home runs last year to, maybe he hits 20, maybe he even comes close to 25, and all of a sudden we're looking at really a top player in the league. So he's kind of my sleeper MVP for this team, someone I'm really excited to keep an eye on. Moving over to the pitching staff, I would say this is really where the strength of the team is at. absolutely dominant top three in Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Freddie Peralta, and Jacob Mizorowski. They rank at 33, 61, and 76 on the top 1,000. I think this is a nod to Ace's work in trading. All three of these guys came via trade last season. Yamamoto, of course, coming over from Al Marnet, Freddie Peralta in that Zach Wheeler trade that I mentioned earlier. And, well, you all know who Jacob Mizorowski came from. That was, he was on my team, and of course, traded him over as a prospect. He came up, and Ace is never going to let me forget it, and I get to be reminded of it every Sunday when we record. Rightfully so. It's fucking Jacob Mizorowski. But yeah, incredible top three there. I think you've got the innings and consistency in Yamamoto and Peralta, who also have that like ace type upside for both of them, both top pitchers in the league. And then what feels like a sky high ceiling for Mizorowski. A little bit less sure what things will look like. He obviously had that incredible stretch to start things off, and then he did fade quite a bit down the stretch. I think he ended the year with close to a 4 ERA, but all the arm talent in the world you could ask for. And yeah, 4.36 ERA last year. So did fade a little bit after that, a hot start that got him onto the All-Star team, but I think he is going to be very, very, very good in that Brewers rotation this year. Rounding out kind of the back end of it, we've got Tanner Bybee, who's been phenomenal in Cleveland for several years. I believe another trade acquisition by Ace. Nathan Eovaldi, again, getting up there a little bit in age, but was incredible in Boston and has taken it a step up ever since he got to Texas, and he's just put up great numbers since. And of course, as we mentioned, thank God for Jeffrey Springs. Jeffrey Springs will be in there. Hopefully, Ace, I think, will be definitely targeting those starts away from Sutter Health Park, but of course, he is the GOAT himself, Jeffrey Springs. We know he will be mentioned as often as possible. And then sort of the what are we going to get question for this team is Blake Snell. Two-time Cy Young Award winner, you know what he can be, but obviously his first year in blue out in LA was not quite what anybody, Ace included, were hoping for. There is a little bit of an even year Blake Snell, he's better on the even years. Obviously, he won the Cy Youngs in 18 and 22, and he has definitely been kind of one of those back and forth guys. He had that great year with the Giants in 24, not such a great year last year, so I think Ace is hoping, of course, both for real-life baseball and for his dynasty team that it does kind of follow that trend. And Hurston Waldrop is on the IL as well. It does look like he'll be back at some point this year, but he was already put on the 60-day injured list, so it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. But yeah, real signs of a breakout in 2025, 2.88 ERA, and Lord knows the Braves need rotation help. So I think when he is able to get back after the surgery, it looks like they were taking loose bodies out of his elbow, which I've always wondered what exactly that means, but it's probably bone check. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Who am I to know? They took the loose bodies out of there. So, we're probably looking at a midsummer return at earliest, but when he is back, we'll hopefully look to slot into that rotation. Coming down to the bullpen, we have kind of a combo of two, I think, really premium setup guys in Robert Suarez and Alex Vesia for the Braves and the Dodgers, respectively. Neither one of them, I think, are likely to get saves with Raisel Iglesias and Edwin Diaz, obviously looking to take things, take over the save opportunities for those teams. But both of these guys, I think, are likely to see quite a bit of time in the setup roles. And for Vesia, something else I mentioned earlier in another podcast, I love left-handers. I just have a knack for them in fantasy because they are deployed so much more than right-handers. They need to get those lefties out. So you just see them a little bit more. They get a little bit more usage. And in a league where, we have the innings pitched as one of the main places where points are acquired for pitchers. I think that's a really valuable trait. And then we do have a closer in the staff as well, Ryan Walker out in San Francisco. My sister was telling me the other day he had this whole interview where he was saying he fixed kind of a mechanical issue. He went from being like unbelievable in 2024 to, walking the world last year, and there was this whole mechanical issue. He has a really weird kind of herky-jerky throwing motion, so it certainly wouldn't surprise me if something was kind of out of whack there. So I think Ace will certainly be looking for Ryan Walker to, kind of get back on track and rack up some saves in that San Francisco bullpen. As I mentioned, I love this pitching staff. The floor is really high, and it's got a pretty high ceiling too. That top three is going to carry Ace as far as he needs to go. And I think there's great depth behind it too, which is really exciting. That's really good to see. So yeah, phenomenal team. And in particular, I think the pitching staff is really good. Ace and I have obviously mentioned sort of, I think we share a similar view, and our projections, I think, have reflected this, that we tend to be of the belief that pitching definitely leads in this league. And again, we don't know what it's going to look like this year. We have buff batters, and I don't think it's impossible to see the scales kind of swing the other way. But for now, what we know is that pitchers have been really strong, and I believe that this staff will do a lot of good work for the Arizona Asphalt. Let's talk about their prospects a little bit. This, I think, if we have to look at the franchise overall, prospects are definitely, I think, the area where the Asphalt are the most vulnerable. There aren't a lot of these top end guys, and not too many guys who are terribly near the near the majors as well. We will start off with Ricky Tiedemann. He's prospect number 114. Kind of a lefty with some funk who throws really hard. He is likely more suited for a bullpen role. He's got absolutely erratic control. But like I said, he throws absolute gas. And if there are some injuries to the Toronto rotation, it's not impossible that we see him get a couple starts to sort of begin things off. But he is more likely destined for a bullpen role. Xavier Isaac, prospect number 188. Of course, we know him as the slapdick prospect himself. He is the truest of true three outcome sluggers. He struggles really hard against lefties. This is something I did not know about last year in his minors. I wasn't keeping a terribly close eye on him, to be honest, but when I looked at the splits, oh my gosh, they are horrifying. So look, this guy is likely a power platoon bat. Good news for Ace and the Asphalt, though. Tampa Bay gets the absolute most out of platoon power bats. So I think if he's going to be in an organization like that, he is in the right place, and they're going to put him, hopefully, in a position to succeed. Don't know when we'll see him. Tampa can be kind of hard to judge when their guys are coming up, but he certainly won't be on the opening day roster. Might not even make it up this year, but it certainly is possible he comes up, August, September, something like that. Then the last guy I'll highlight is Coleman Crow. He ranks at 525 on the prospect list. High sort of, spin control type guy. Low 90s fastball, so he's not going to blow you away. But 32-6 K to walk ratio in the minors last year. The curveball is a plus pitch for swing and miss. So, you're betting on a guy with, I've mentioned this before, pitchability, and what I always say is bet on Milwaukee, man, especially when it comes to pitchers. Bet on Milwaukee. There is not a lot when you look at Coleman Crow to say this is a guy who's going to be a good pitcher in the league, and then you see that MIL next to his team, and you say, he just might be. So those are sort of those three prospects, maybe to keep an eye on. Again, I think that is definitely the area where the Asphalt are maybe the most vulnerable, is in their farm system. But this is clearly a team that is tooled to win now. And I think that, the farm system reflects that. And that is how the cycle of a dynasty league goes. So we will slide down to record predictions. This is so hard. Oh, good Lord, this is really tough. With only 6 playoff spots, I'm actually flipping. I believe the Arizona Asphalt are going to make the playoffs this year with a 12-9 record. I believe they're going to make the playoffs. I think it is going to be very, very close, but I do think we see the Asphalt in the playoffs this year. This is such a good team. That pitching staff is so good. And I think if, there's so much depth in it too. I think if we see a trade, out of some of the depth of the pitching staff, maybe, an Evaldi or a Logan Allen or a Bybee, who are, all quality arms for what would be a very good bat in return. All of a sudden, I think we just see this team take the next leap. And, we already obviously did see him deal a pitcher in Nick Pivetta. So maybe, obviously you don't want to go overboard, but this seems like a team that is, I think, primed to be successful this year. And I think another thing to keep in mind is, like, this is a team that is very much built to win now. And so Ace is going to go out and get everything he can for this team. If that means giving up picks, if that means maybe even giving up a young guy who isn't quite contributing at sort of his prime level yet, Ace is going to go out to make sure this team wins. So I do have this team at 12-9 and making the playoffs nearly. There are 3 teams I've projected at 12-9, and gosh, I could really see any of them. And I feel terrible leaving off the other team, but I do think that this is the year we see the Arizona Asphalt make their way to the playoffs. So that is all we have got for team number 6. We will be back tomorrow with team number 5. And for today, that is me signing off.
Do you know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers.